Good morning. I'm here with Captain Tidman of the Salvation Army. We're going to be talking about holiday giving, new ways to give, and how you can contribute to help your fellow Marylanders. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining me for this interview.
Absolutely. It is such a pleasure to be here.
So I know you're all very busy. This time of year is your big holiday giving campaign and push. And one of the big things that the Salvation Army is known for are the red kettles and the bell ringers. You see them out at the shopping malls, at the grocery stores, and other retail establishments. Could you give me just a little bit of an overview on that program and sort of how big of a part it is of the Salvation Army's holiday campaign?
Absolutely. You know, it's really interesting. It started off as a very small thing. It actually started in San Francisco. An officer named Captain Joseph McPhee started this program up because he wanted to provide Christmas dinner for the sailors that were in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so he literally took a kettle and stuck a kettle out at the wharf and said, give donations to give the sailors a dinner. And he was able to bring up that money. Now, that was at the turn of the century, and it's been a long time since we've had that happen. And it's become a huge part of the Salvation Army's regular giving program. We see it contribute to, in some locations, as much as a third of the budget for the year is brought in during Christmas. Its main goal is still to do exactly what it was at the very beginning, is to provide Christmas assistance for people that need help. And it certainly does that. But it also helps keep the lights on in the lean months in the summer when things are not necessarily as forthcoming with donations as they are during the Christmas season.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because this is the time of year when everyone thinks about donating and holiday dinners and, as you noted, other needs around the holiday season. But those needs extend beyond that period of time, all throughout the year. And so these funds go towards supporting families throughout the year. Could you talk a little bit more about the type of assistance that they're able to provide through these donations?
Absolutely. So we can do pretty much everything under the sun with these donations as they come in, anything that will help people. These will go towards funding our Pathway of Hope program, which is a program that works to help families get out of the cycle of poverty. The poverty cycle is just really difficult for a lot of people to escape, and so this Pathway of Hope program is one of the programs that we have really implemented that we've seen success with. We've seen people that are literally moving themselves out of those patterns. It'll also go to fund our Boys and Girls Clubs. We have 3 different Boys and Girls Clubs in the Central Maryland area, and they provide character building. They provide a safe location. They provide after-school help for kids ages 6 all the way up to 18, giving them a place to get off the street and to get a safe location where they can really have fun and be a kid, which is something that a lot of kids struggle with nowadays.
Right, and I would imagine that those programs are particularly important as you move into the spring and the summer months and the fall months, where you have kids outside more with nothing else to do. And so those programs need funding throughout the year.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, this year, the Salvation Army is not seeing the numbers that you would typically see in the Red Kettle program. So can you talk about what some of the reasons behind that are?
Certainly. You know, we are looking at, not just in the Red Kettle program, but in our fundraising as a whole, $500,000 lower than we would normally be by this time of year. When we have a $10 million expense budget, including both gift in kind and physical donations, you know, that's a significant amount to be behind compared to previous years. We have really looked at a couple of different reasons. You know, we can point to things like we're in an economic downturn. That makes it more difficult for people to give. We're coming out of COVID, and people have really gotten into that kind of hold things together, just buckle down until we get through. And so people are still kind of in that mindset and working through. We're also seeing, particularly when it comes to our kettles, things like lower amounts of change being given this year because of coin shortages that we've had in the previous years. We're still seeing ripple effects from that. The other thing that we're really seeing that's kind of contributing to it is we're able to put out fewer and fewer kettles just because we don't have the staff to put those out, and we don't have the volunteers to put that out. People have gotten used to sitting at home and maybe aren't as interesting going and standing out in front of a store for a couple of hours and ringing the bell.
Sure. Well, if someone's out there and they're watching this and they want to get into this program, I know it's a little late this year, but how would they volunteer to do the Kettle program.
Absolutely. The biggest thing is that they can call their local Salvation Army. They can find a list of all of the Salvation Armies in the central Maryland area at our website, which is sa-md.org, and that'll give them contact information for a local Salvation Army. And just calling up that Salvation Army, they'll be able to tell them, hey, we have kettles at these locations we could really use volunteers for. That's also a great location if maybe they don't want to go out and they win a ring, but they still want to give a physical donation. They can go to that exact same website, sa-md.org/donate, and they can make a donation online from the comfort of their own home.
That's great. Now, we talked a little bit before we began filming. So, how big of a factor do you think, in your opinion, is the coming out of COVID, less people are using actual currency as they did in days past, where you could simply reach into your pocket and take that spare change that's making your purse really heavy and throw it in the kettle? How do you think that's affecting the campaign?
I very rarely carry cash in my wallet right now because you just use your card for everything. It's something the Salvation Army has seen for several years leading up to this point, not just COVID. COVID kind of highlighted that issue, but even before then, we were seeing kind of this transition to a cashless society. One of the things that we're trying here in the central Maryland area is we're trying a new program. We're doing our Tip Tap program. We're one of the pilot locations for the Salvation Army in our area, and we have 8 different Tip Tap locations that are different locations each day, but they'll have a special sign where people can use these little Tip Taps to give, either using Google Pay or Apple Pay or their PayWave enabled card, and we've seen definite success with that.
That's great. It's the evolution of giving, so I think that's great. So if you don't have change and you don't carry cash, there's still plenty of ways to give. You can go to the website. Give that website one more time.
sa-md.org/donate.
Great. Or you can, if you see these at one of your retailers, I believe you said Walmart is one of the major locations where you'll look for these. You can use American Express, Visa, MasterCard, Apple Pay, or Google Pay. Tap your credit card and you make a donation right here. So this is the new state of giving here in Maryland. And this is a great program. I think this is fabulous. And honestly, I think people might be apt to give a little bit more than just a pocket of change. But I also wanted to get into something else. We've had other donations in the past where people have thrown in gold coins or jewelry, and you were talking a little bit about that. So I was hoping you can share about some of the stranger donations that you've had over the years.
You always get weird things in the kettle. Sometimes you get pretty normal things like bills and coins, but occasionally you'll get people that'll drop in jewelry. You occasionally will get people that drop in coins. I've seen ancient coins dropped in a kettle before, things that you would go, that's really interesting, where did this even come from? But it's one of the ways that people give, and of course when people give that, it creates a kind of a situation because you got to go, okay, how do we turn this into the money that they were meaning to give? But at the same time, it shows their heart that even if they didn't have the money to give themselves, they did want to give something to help support the campaign. One of my favorite stories from a couple years ago is somebody put a $5,000 bill in a kettle, and people don't really realize that there are bills that high. It was a thing that the Federal Reserve did for just a very certain number of people, and each of these bills has a very specific serial number. And the Salvation Army, where it was donated, they first thought it was fake. They thought it was somebody making a joke, and they actually had to call up the Federal Reserve and verify that it was an official currency that they could do. But they were able to, and it was a huge gift that came in just randomly one time.
Okay. Well, so the kettles will be out for the remainder of the week this week, is that correct?
Absolutely. They are out up until Christmas Eve.
Okay, so everyone get out there. If you see those kettles, there's many different ways to donate. Of course, you can also go to the website and you can look for the Tap Pay locations, and you can look for those at Walmarts and other retailers for the next few days. And then will you be keeping these out after the holidays?
So we won't be doing any after the holidays. A lot of our locations, they're very gracious to let us be there, but Christmas has to end at some point. Christmas can't keep going forever as much as we want to keep it going in our hearts. And so really this is just a very short amount of time that people have left to kind of get out there and support this.
Okay. Well, that's great. Did you have anything else that you'd like to add before we close out today?
Yeah, 82 cents out of every dollar is going to support the social services that we are doing. That is really unheard of in the nonprofit space for the amount of money that's given from every donation to go directly to services to people. We're committed to doing that because we want to make sure that people have everything that they need to be successful in life, and that people have that support and that care that they need in order to move forward, even when they reach some really difficult times in their lives.
Well, thank you so much, Captain Tidman, for joining me today to talk about ways that people can give and the Red Kettle program. And thank all of you for joining us. Don't forget to donate. You've got that website. Give it out one more time.
sa-md.org/donate.
All right. For everyone at Arundel.news and Anne Arundel First Alert, I'm Holly Basta.